Welcome to the Happy Soul Podcast. My name is Melissa, and this is Sammy. We are diving deep into conversations that connect and inspire. Stories of resilience, triumph, and transformation. Stories that take us to the heart of human connection. Please note that opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect those of this podcast. Please listen with your kindness and an open mind. Each story shared is authentic and vulnerable. Let's embrace our differences with empathy, knowing every voice enriches us. Together, let's cultivate a community of respect and curiosity. Thank you for listening. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to be inspired.
And I remember asking Keith one time, I said, was it hard being in the hospital, helping you and sleeping in the chair and doing all these things? And his response was, no, that wasn't hard. Scary? Sure. Not hard. He's like, because I knew what I had to do every day. Every day, this is what I had to do. This is what had to be done. It wasn't hard. I had no choices. I just had to be there. Scary, lots of other emotions for sure. Hard is choosing what I have to do every day. Hard is showing up to make those choices that I know are better for me and I don't actually have to do them. And I thought, wow, that's a really good perspective to have. And I don't mean that to undermine people who are feeling the hard in whatever they're going through, but I think that, yeah, it is a really good perspective to have, and I feel like that's similar to yours.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Happy Soul Podcast. Today we are going to speak with my friend Deanna. Deanna was born with cystic fibrosis and diagnosed at a very young age for the time. With cystic fibrosis comes with different diagnoses such as diabetes and osteoporosis. I wanted to interview my friend Deanna today because she has a really awesome mentality about overcoming. Basically, it's just keep going. Life is going to happen, and no matter how shitty life gets, you just got to keep going. It doesn't mean it's not hard, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to have hard days, but ultimately you have to find a way that you're going to just keep going and enjoying life. And I really value and appreciate the mentality both her and her husband share around this. And so today I wanted to hold space for Deanna to share her story, give us a bit more information about what happened, how her disease progressed. She ultimately ended up going through a double lung transplant, which is a pretty incredible story itself. I've known Deanna. She was one of my first clients when I was a personal trainer. And I've asked bits and pieces of questions along the way in our friendship, but I really wanted to sit down and ask a whole bunch of questions that I just hadn't really asked before and just give space for her to share the story of everything that she's gone through. And in her mind, she would say that she doesn't have a story to share, but truthfully, she really does. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Deanna, and welcome to the podcast, Deanna.
Hi.
Hi. We're going to giggle a lot today, and that's okay. Okay, so Deanna, you grew up, from what I remember from the story, is when you were diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, you were quite little, right?
I was 13 months old, which in rural Alberta back 40 years ago was very young to be diagnosed, and it was a complete fluke that I was diagnosed that young. My mom had taken me in for my 1-year vaccine appointment, and at the appointment had just mentioned to the locum doctor that she had noticed if I had been crying a lot and she would kiss my skin, that it would burn her. If she had cracked lips, she would feel like a burning. And the locum happened to just know enough about CF back then that he was like, well, that's weird. Do you mind if we just do some testing just to make rule stuff out basically? And she's like, sure, because it was just a sweat test. And that's how they ended up diagnosing me. Most people don't, back then, didn't get diagnosed until they were in their teens and they were really sick. So
it doesn't usually show up for people causing any issues until you hit teenage years?
No, there's still all the symptoms are there, but people, because it wasn't well known, that wasn't their go-to thought. So other people I know who weren't diagnosed until they were later, they were just always they'd always get pneumonia as a kid, or they were just always underweight as a kid, or just kind of always sick with something, or asthma or something. But it was actually cystic fibrosis. I was just undiagnosed.
Interesting. Do you know how it's shifted now? Do you know how early they get? I know you're a nurse, so.
So now, I think it happened in early 2000s. The NMS newborn screening that they do with every baby in Canada now when you're born in the hospital, and they do that little heel poke of blood. or once you come home from the hospital, because I also did that as one of my jobs. Cystic fibrosis is actually on that testing, so every baby in Canada now gets tested when they're born for cystic fibrosis.
Okay.
Because I don't think the numbers have changed, but last I looked, the amount of people who are a carrier of CF in Canada is 1 in 250.
Okay.
So like it's to be a carrier of the gene is quite common, and it'll just pop up out of nowhere. That doesn't have to run in your family.
So do you know what that was like? Has your mom ever told you like what happened after you were diagnosed, what the processes were for taking care of a baby at that age?
So basically, when I was diagnosed, I was immediately admitted up at the University of Alberta, like the Stollery Children's Hospital.
Okay.
During diagnosis, so they could like basically run all the tests, get baselines, see how my lungs were. CF is a multi-system disease, so it basically affects any part of your body that has a mucosal lining. So like lungs are a big one. That's the most obvious that people see and notice on the outside, even though it's not really on the outside, but like you hear us coughing a lot. We're not contagious, but we sound like we're dying when we're coughing. So people are always like, well, what's wrong with them? A lot of people have more like digestive issues. We take like digestive enzymes when we eat anything that has fat in it.
Okay.
And a lot of people, depending on the gene they have or the severity, can have more serious either lung issues or digestive issues. Because like there's people who will have, say, really great lung function, like up in the 80%, but they get constant bowel blockages and they have in and out and they're in for surgery and all that kind of stuff. Whereas there's other people who, like me, it was pretty much, as long as I took my enzymes, I was perfectly fine. In the digestive situation, it was my lungs. That was like my big problem. And then a lot of people, I think it's like 60% of people with CF have CF-related diabetes. And it's because the pancreas gets plugged with all the mucus, the extra mucus that our body produces, which is what happens to the lungs and in the intestines as well. So I also have CF-related diabetes, which essentially acts like type 1.
Okay.
And was diagnosed when I was 16 with that. So
I was going to ask how that tied into it because I knew you had diabetes, and it also comes with, I think, osteoporosis or for something like that.
It's very common for osteoporosis pre-transplant. Since I've had my transplant, my bone density has actually gone back up and I don't have it anymore.
Cool.
And I still take like calcium supplements and a vitamin D supplement, but with those, my bone density is actually up in the normal levels now.
Interesting. Obviously, it's like the way the lungs are taking everything in.
Yeah.
That helps get that. Huh. Okay. Next, I'm totally sidetracking here. Does your necklace say salty on it?
It does.
Okay, so is that because of your personality or because of your skin?
I am both salty physically and salty personality-wise. So it's a double whammo.
Because we didn't say this earlier, but when your mom kissed your skin, it's like having excess salt in it.
Yes. So and that's how the sweat test was originally like basically how they would diagnose, because the particles or the amount of salt in the sweat was like ridiculous compared to normal people. Like even now, like if I go out when it's warm out and I'm sweating, I can rub my face and my finger will be covered in salt.
Yeah.
Because it'll just be coming off of me and you can like see it stuck in my eyebrows and stuff like that. So like I am just salty physically if I sweat.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know if this is okay to ask. When you were a teenager, going through teenagers, was that ever a thing, like when you were playing sports and stuff, that your clothes would be extra salty that you cared about?
No. I didn't have at that, like when I got to high school, when I started dating, it was like more on my mind. But even then, in high school, my lungs were bad enough that I wasn't playing a lot of sports in high school. So it wasn't that big of a problem. that I remember anyways.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It probably would be something that stood out to you as a memory if it was. So, okay, talking about growing up, so you went to all those tests and everything like that. Do you remember at what age it started really affecting you?
I remember it, other than like the coughing and stuff and the, like, as soon as I started school, because the treatment regime for cystic fibrosis in general, especially when you have the lungs, is you do multiple, ideally like 3 times a day when I was little anyways. Inhaled medication, so like in a nebulizer.
Okay.
So I had to do that in the morning before going to school. I would do that at my lunch break at school, and then in the evening again before bed, or basically any time in the evening, along with chest physio. So during lunch in school, I didn't get a lunch like recess to go out and play with all the kids at lunchtime.
Yeah.
So because I'm from a very, very small town, so basically my mom taught the librarian how to do chest physio. And so at lunch every day, I would just go to the library and I would do my like inhaled Ventolin, and then she would do chest physio on me in the library while I like read books or whatever. So like that was even in elementary school and stuff. So like, and sometimes I was allowed to have a friend come in and hang out with me, but like most of the time they'd want to be outside playing and running around. So a lot of the times I was just hanging out with the librarian at lunch.
Do you remember what the chest physio was?
What it was?
Yeah, what they do?
Oh yeah.
What they do?
It's essentially being hit on all, like your sides, your chest, and your back by hands. When you cup your hands and you just like do like percussion like that.
Huh.
Aggressively. Basically because you want to shake all the mucus that's stuck.
Yeah.
So that you can loosen it up. So it's like shaking somebody really, really hard without actually shaking them.
Do they still do that? Is that still?
They still do that.
Okay.
They also have, which I got a machine later, like when I was in university, but like now they're a lot more common. You can get a vest.
Okay.
It's a machine and it has a little like compressor with it.
Yeah.
And you put on the vest and it's hooked up to a couple of hoses, and then you turn it on and it just will shake your lungs for you, so you don't have to physically be hit.
My, how things have changed, hey?
Yeah. And like, because it was like postural drainage, so like we would always have like a fold up like A-shaped board that I would lay down so that my head was lower.
Okay. So
that when stuff drained, it drained up.
Yeah.
So that I could cough it out.
Interesting. Isn't that wild now? You think about like I feel like no librarian now would be like, yes, give me the extra job of beating the child.
Right? I don't know if you'd get away with that.
No, they wouldn't.
But back in the 80s and early 90s, go for it. This just reminded me with the physio because some people thought it was really funny and some people did not think Keith and I were very funny. Keith's my husband. We were doing a fundraising walk for CF and we made t-shirts, and my t-shirt said, "My husband beats me," and Keith's t-shirt said, "I beat my wife." Whereas if you know people with CF and have been around that, that was funny because it was just chest physio. Yeah. But people who clearly didn't know enough about it, we got some really weird looks for wearing those t-shirts out in public.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, especially when you think about like, if you go to the context of someone who's been in an abusive relationship or something like that, like that's triggering and sad, obviously. But there's the other context of anybody who's with CF is like, that's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a mixed thing. I remember you guys telling me about those t-shirts. I can't remember I think that was after we met or maybe before we met.
I think it was maybe just before we met.
Yeah, I don't know.
That we did that, yeah.
So do you know at that age at what age it was that it slowed you down when it came to sports and things like that, or doing even just daily stuff?
I want to say, like in junior high, I played on all the school sports teams still.
Okay.
So it probably still affected me then, even though I was still able to play on the sports teams.
Yeah.
But I remember in like junior high, when in like gym class, when we had to do like the 20-minute run, where you just like gym classes basically run around the gymnasium for 20 minutes, basically learn how to run.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it. So I was allowed to just walk for 20 minutes. Okay. So like in junior high, it was already like...
It's starting to impact you.
Yeah.
And then at what age did it start impacting like daily life? Because obviously we'll get to the point where you had a transplant, but
I feel like all the way through that's a lie. I would say for the most part through university, day-to-day life, like it was still okay. Other than I'd be short of breath doing certain activities and stuff, but like I still went snowboarding and could do things. But also in nursing school, I would get run down and get sick when I had a practicum placement because of the less sleep. And then I would get sick, and then I would have to go on IV antibiotics. So as like a tune-up, because we used to call them tune-ups.
Yeah.
Even though you weren't like sick and needed to be hospitalized, they'd just give you 2 weeks of IV antibiotics to like boost you up.
Yeah.
So we started doing that preemptively before each practicum while I was in nursing school, so I wouldn't get as run down.
Oh, okay.
So I guess being in university, that would still impact my day-to-day life.
Yeah. Okay. So pause there for a second. When did you meet Keith, your husband?
I met Keith in my second year of university.
Okay. And so did that come up at what point was it like, hey, FYI, I have cystic fibrosis?
I didn't tell him.
Oh, okay.
And he loves to tell this story. So we like met, started dating, kind of casually hanging out. And at the time I wore like a medical ID bracelet, like an anklet.
Okay.
And one time we were just like sitting on the couch watching a show or a movie or something. And my feet were like on his lap. And he was like nonchalantly, because he just thought like I had asthma because of the coughing and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he never like asked me about it. That's just what he assumed. Yeah. And I didn't ever bring it up or correct him because what if we don't work out? You don't need to know my business.
Yeah.
He was like playing with it and like casually like flipped it over to read it while I was like not paying attention and saw that it said cystic fibrosis. And then he just like locked that away in his little brain and then went and did his own research on it when we weren't together. And then that's how he found out. And I don't remember the time or like the moment when he actually brought it up or of either of us. Like, I don't remember having a conversation with him like, hey, FYI, or him being like, so I did some research and you have this? What is happening? But this is his version. He's like, you didn't tell me and I had to figure it out on my own. And I was like, well.
You did a great job.
Yeah.
Good work. I was testing you. Okay, so I want to backtrack again for a second. When you were diagnosed, did your parents, were they told like a lifespan or life expectancy? What was that?
So when I was first diagnosed, my parents were told to not expect me to make it to kindergarten.
Wow.
And I was born in 84, so was diagnosed in 85.
Okay.
So that was the like original, like then like don't expect them to make it to kindergarten. And then as like the years progressed, then they were told like, oh, well, she probably won't graduate high school. So like it just kind of like it was a moving timeline as like more research and like more money was put into it basically so they could come up with different treatments and new drugs to treat it with and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now there's a really great drug called Trikafta that CF patients use that like insanely milds their symptoms and brings their like lung function like way up higher than it normally was.
Oh, wow.
But that wasn't approved for use in Canada until I want to say like maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So like
too late for you.
Way too late for me. But a lot of people now like have like seen huge improvements in their lung function and could possibly never need a transplant because of this medication.
That's wild.
So yeah. So it's come a long way. So now, I think now, like without a transplant, like if someone's just diagnosed with CF with the treatments now, I think the average like or the predicted lifespan is like in the 50s.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So
when you think about your parents were told don't make it till kindergarten.
Yeah.
And now it's they'll still have basically a long life.
Yeah. And I mean it's not like everyone can expect that because again, depending on which gene mutation you have and how severe, there's still kids who need a transplant when they're children.
Yeah.
Or like I was 26 when I needed mine. Yeah. But the overall overlook is like way better.
I can't imagine a kid having a double lung transplant. I mean, I know it happens, but that's crazy. Yeah. Thinking about it. Okay, so back to the you and Keith thing. So after he found out you had cystic fibrosis, and you're like, who knows how long I'll live? Right. Was that like a conversation?
So it was never a conversation with Keith and I, but his mom was also a nurse, or had been a nurse before she had kids.
Okay.
And his mom had a chat with him, apparently. Not in my presence, obviously, about like, here's what you're signing on for. Like, you can cut and run now, basically. Like, she was like, this is what you're signing on for, so make sure you're good for it.
How long were you together when she had this conversation with him? Do you know?
I want to say probably within the first year.
Okay.
Maybe 2. I don't actually know. He's never told me.
Isn't that interesting that it never, like, he was never like, hey, so you have cystic fibrosis. It was just like he found out and just kept going.
Yeah. Because he will make fun. He'll be like, I would just describe it. Like, especially if, like, to strangers or something, I would just describe it as, like, really bad asthma.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not going to go into the details about how it affects every part of my body.
Yeah, yeah.
Strangers don't need to know that. I'm not going to sit there and give them a lecture about the disease I have.
Yeah, yeah.
But I would just say it was really bad asthma. And he's like, I think it's a bit more than really bad asthma. He could have clued me in. Like, well. And yet here we are, 21 years later.
There you are. Yeah, stick around. Obviously he meant it. So let's talk about, you've met Keith. He now knows you have cystic fibrosis. He knows, I don't know, she could die anytime soon.
Yeah.
Which, it's a whole other conversation about the people in his life who could die anytime soon.
Who would have thought I'd outlive them all?
When, at one point, after you guys met, so you met in second year university, at what point did it get bad enough that it was like, okay, you need to be put on a lung transplant list?
I graduated university when I was 21 and had my transplant when I was 26. So, and I was on oxygen. So I had my transplant in 2011 in April.
Okay.
I was on oxygen for a little bit more than 1 year. So I believe it was March 2010.
Okay.
When I went on oxygen, and that's when I was like, well, I'm not living on oxygen for who knows how long. Let's get this ball rolling. Like, because I had also, like, what, like, started it all, basically, and started that ball rolling was Keith and I had gone to Mexico, and while I was in Mexico, I got sick. Got some sort of cold, lung infection, whatever.
Yeah.
Came home, went to the doctor. They put me on oxygen because my SATs, like, I walked into the clinic and I was, like, blue-lipped and, like, could barely walk. And they're like, what is wrong with you? Why are you waiting this long? And I was like, I'm living my life. I don't know. This is also the problem with people with chronic health disease conditions. They never seek medical attention when they should. So yeah, I went in and I had blue lips and they were like, let's put you on some oxygen. I think my SATs were like 68.
Oh my gosh.
And so they admitted me and then tuned me right up. But that was like the tipping point where my lungs never recovered from that illness.
Okay.
Where I couldn't come off the oxygen. Because if I came off the oxygen, even at resting, sitting, my SATs would drop to like 88%.
Wow.
So then I was just on oxygen and I at home and stuff. And I was like, well, I'm not going to sit around and just live on oxygen. So let's talk about transplant now, I guess. If I'm not going to recover, let's do this thing. Because I'm all about quality of life.
So when did you and Keith get married?
Keith and I got married in 2007.
Okay.
And had my transplant in 2011.
Okay, so 4 years later. So you've been together for almost 9 years. Well,
it'll be 19 years this.
No,
sorry.
When you had transplant.
When I had my transplant, we'll have been together for 8 years.
I know his mom passed away. I don't know exactly when, but if his mom ever had another conversation about your health with him or anything like that?
As far as I know, I don't know if it had anything else I don't know if it specifically had anything to do with my health, but I know on our wedding day, she had said, if you need to run, now is the time. And I was like, because Keith told me this after. And I was like, can we stop trying to make him leave me? Like, what is happening? Because also, me and his mom got along really well.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like she was like the evil mother-in-law and it was like trying to get rid of me. Like,
Yeah.
I think she was genuinely just like, make sure, because we were all so young.
Yeah.
So I think she was genuinely just like, make sure this is actually what you want to do.
Because you guys were like 23 or something when you got married, right?
Yeah. I was 23 and he was 24.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's really young to not only get married, but also be like, hey, I know you love this girl.
I'm signing on for
but there's lots of girls. Yeah, you're signing up for a lot. Yeah, yeah. Because when I met you, it was 1 year post-transplant, I believe. Yeah, it would have been November 2012, so a year and a half later. Yeah. And I'm going to just tell the story from my perspective because I had just started working as a personal trainer like 2 weeks in. And my boss comes to me and says, I have a new client for you. And I'm like, okay. So I only had my like CanFit Pro certification, which I'm not speaking poorly of, but it is not high-risk people, I'll tell you. And she's like, I have a new client for you. She had a double lung transplant, and she has diabetes, and she's got osteoporosis. And I'm like, I'm going to kill this woman. Like,
should she be working out?
Or should she be working out? Am I qualified to train her? Like, I was like, oh my God. And then she introduces me to you, and I'm like, okay, I have to pretend I know what I'm doing now. I have to be...
Put your big girl panties
on. Put my big girl's panties on and like... be there. And so anyways, I just remember I still very vividly remember her walking to the front desk and you walking behind her, walking up to me, and I'm like, holy shit, okay. I very vividly remember that moment. Anyways, here we are a few years later. But I do also remember two things. One, as I remember when I was training you, I bite my nails all the time. It's a bad habit that I struggle to break. But I remember like I'd be holding your shoulders to like fix your posture and you'd be all sweaty, and like a little while later, I'd go like bite my nail, and I'm like, shit, that's salty. Like, oh,
yeah, right.
It's like, why are my fingers so salty? Ah, yes, I was touching Deanna earlier. Okay, so going to transplant, what was that like for you? I know that you're a very matter-of-fact person, and so I don't know if you're going to have much to say about it, but what was it like for you to know that you were going to have this massive surgery? Because I think, actually, let's back up. It was your uncle and your brother that donated lungs.
So yeah, so my brother and my uncle both donated a lobe of their lung. Basically because, so I did, once we like had the meeting with the transplant team in Edmonton, and I met all the criteria to go on the list, because you have to be sick enough to actually go on the list. You can't just say, oh, I don't like being on oxygen, I have to go on the list now. You have to like be sick enough to go on the list.
Yeah.
Which is having a stabilized lung function of less than 30%.
Okay.
Which I think at the time I was at like a 27%.
Okay.
As like my highest. So like that was my like stabilized. And if I got sick, it would drop. And it was like dropping regularly kind of thing. Because I think at the time I was like maybe getting 3 to 4 weeks in between needing IV antibiotics.
Wow.
To like keep me alive. Yeah. So...
Can I pause you for a sec? Were you like really afraid at that point in time that you were not going to make it to a lung transplant?
At that time, no.
Okay.
Because I knew in the back of my mind that living donor was an option.
Okay.
Not a lot of people know about that, but because I knew somebody else who had gone through it.
Okay.
I kind of knew that was maybe an option for me, because I also have a giant family. Okay. So...
You're like, someone's
I was like, somebody's got to do this for sure. Now, I mean, if nobody had stepped up, then that would be a whole different story. Yeah. But what was I saying?
You were talking about getting on the transplant list, how sick you had to be.
So once we were there and I met with them, and I was like, less than 30% is like where I'm at lung function, whereas like regular humans have 100%. So like that's when you're just walking around with normal lungs, you have 100% lung function.
Yeah.
And I was regularly at like 27. So literally by the time I had my transplant, Keith was like carrying me up the stairs to bed each night. Like I couldn't do one flight of stairs, even wearing oxygen, without taking a break halfway up, sitting on the stairs, coughing to the point of puking, and then do the other half of this set of stairs. So it was like a real bad time. Yeah. But basically, once I got to that point where my quality of life was such shit, I was like, absolutely put me on the list. Like, I don't just want to sit here and see how long I can do this. If I meet the criteria, put me on the list. Yeah. Because it can't get worse than this, basically.
Outside of dying.
Outside of dying, but if I'm dead, I won't even know. Like, if I die, I won't care.
Yeah.
Me. My friends and family will, but like me, myself, if that's the way it goes, it can't be worse than the way I'm living right now. Yeah. For me.
Okay, so before we go into transplant, what kind of medication, how many much medication were you on prior to transplant?
Prior to transplant, I was on 3 inhaled medications.
Okay.
Plus chest physio, which in that year and a half leading up to transplant, I was having probably 6 times a day. Like in the middle of the night. Like I would wake up not being able to breathe and coughing, and Keith would wake up and like do physio once or twice in the middle of the night.
Wow.
Like nobody in our house was sleeping.
Yeah.
And he still got up and had to go to work. So he was just a zombie.
What a good man, hey?
Right?
Right.
He should have listened to his mom.
Out on that. He's sitting there going, fucking listen to my mom.
Right?
What the hell is this?
He's like, I can't believe I fell for this. It's just my charming personality.
Yes, absolutely. You must be great.
Right?
She's like, I know, I am. It's fine.
Medication. So I was on 3 inhaled medication that I would take 3 to 4 times a day. And each nebulizer takes about 20 minutes. Okay. So an hour at a time to do all 3. Okay. And the one specifically was like an antibiotic one. And it gave you like a really dry, scratchy, hoarse voice. Like I already have a hoarse voice from all the coughing I did growing up.
Yeah.
But like it was like noticeably different.
Okay. So were there actual pills you had to take?
All my digestive enzymes for everything I ate.
Okay.
So I would take 4 each time I ate anything. Okay. And then I'm just trying to remember what pills I was on before transplant. Other than, I would have been on like a calcium, because again with the osteoporosis, I would have been on a calcium, and then like a specialized multivitamin specifically that had like vitamin A, D, E, and K in it.
Okay.
Which are not normally in regular multivitamins you buy over the counter.
Yeah.
I don't remember if there was a lot of other ones. I don't think so. I think basically those were the pills. So like hardly any compared to what I take now.
Yeah. I know, we'll get to that. Okay. So that's what you're on. You're on the transplant list. Then what happens?
On the transplant list. So I was on the transplant list for 8 months, waiting, sitting at home with my little pager, because even then they still use pagers, which is wild. Wasn't allowed to like leave the province.
Okay.
Because they do all heart and lung transplants are all done in Edmonton.
Yeah.
So living in Calgary, I was outside that 2-hour window. So if I got a call, depending on where the donor was coming from, if I had time, they would ask me to drive up myself /
someone drove you up. Yeah.
Someone drive me up. But if not, like I say, the donor was already in Edmonton and they were like ready to go time, they would actually just chopper me up. Okay. And I was like, this is going to be the coolest part of the whole thing. Yeah. Put me in a helicopter. I was really disappointed when I didn't get to be in a helicopter. So I was on the list for 8 months, and then had one of my regular like follow-up appointments with the transplant team it would have been January 2011. And basically in that meeting with them, we discussed like, you're getting sick fast, like even on oxygen and stuff while you're waiting. And essentially because typically people with CF are very small, like skinny, because they're using all of their calories to stay alive. Mm-hmm. So like I was literally eating as many calories as I could put in my body. Yeah. To not have to have a feeding tube. Yeah. So like, and I remember you
talking about this, eating like multiple cheeseburgers.
Every single night, like I want to say for probably the last month or 2, Keith and I would go to like 5 Guys, and I would get whatever double patty burger they have and eat that right before bed every night. So I would just absorb all the calories from it to like help maintain 105 pounds.
Crazy.
Yeah. So we were doing that, and then they're like, basically you're waiting for child-sized lungs is the problem. And because my blood type is like
Because you're so small? Is that why you're
yeah,
waiting for
because small, like I'm only 5'3". A lot of like 12, 13, 14-year-olds are 5'3".
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of them are taller than that. And when you're waiting for cadaver lungs, which means coming from somebody who's passed away,
Yeah.
they have to fit perfectly, basically, because you're taking the whole set of lungs and they have to fit in your chest cavity.
Yeah.
So basically I was waiting for a teenager or preteen to die so that their lungs would fit in my body. And at that point, when they look at, like, even if you're on high up on the transplant list, they will still give priority to somebody younger than me. Yeah. If they're on the list as well, because they technically have more life that they would get out of the lungs.
Yeah.
Even though I was only 26, yeah. If there's a 16-year-old on the list, yeah.
They get it first.
They're going to get it over me because they're 10 years younger than me. Yeah. And they're like, we don't know if you'll get lungs in time at this point because we're waiting for kid-sized lungs. There's kids on the list. So then I was like, okay, what about living donor? Like, they didn't bring it up. I was the one like, I know about this secret thing. Come on, tell me about it. And they're like, well, and at first they tried to like play it down because I think they don't. And like, they don't do living donor anymore because the surgeon who used to do it has retired and none of the other surgeons wanted to be trained in it.
Interesting.
Like, they didn't want to take on that responsibility because you're putting 3 lives at risk.
Yeah.
When you do that.
Yeah.
Instead of 1. So they don't do living donor anymore here in Canada. And I was only the 7th one done in Alberta.
Wow.
So they really use it as like a last resort. But basically I was like, what about living donor? Let's do this. And so they said, yeah, like we can definitely look into it. Like the process for that then is I'm not involved in any way because they can't have coercion. You can't have you paying people to give you a body part. Like it has to be like completely ethically moral.
Yeah.
And everything. So basically they then sent my parents a letter that they could distribute.
Okay.
And the process for anybody who wanted to be tested to see if they would be a match / healthy enough and go through all of the testing contacted the transplant team directly. It didn't go through me or my parents. My parents were basically, they could distribute the letter to people. So basically our family, like my extended family is who they distribute it to.
Yeah.
And then if people wanted to, they could contact the team directly. I was not told who would phone in. If anybody phoned in, I was completely left out of the loop.
So nobody knows except for the surgeon.
Except for the person who's phoning in and my doctors.
Yeah.
And I had 7 people total phone in to be willing to be tested to do it. Yeah. And the first 2 people to phone in was my brother and my one uncle. And they were both matches. So that's who we used. And then they had, and they were told, which I didn't find out till after through them, that during the whole process of them being tested, make sure they're healthy enough to go through major surgery. Like they went through the gamut of tests, like everything. Wow. That they were told that at any time throughout the process, literally right up until they were going under for surgery, so like the day of anything, they could back out and they wouldn't tell me that they had backed out. They would say, a test has come back wonky, something's come back not right, we can't use them anymore. They would never let me know that it was them who chose to opt out.
Wow.
So if they like chickened out or whatever, changed their mind, I would never be told like this, they chose to do that.
Yeah.
So it's like a whole big process to like protect the donors as well.
That's awesome. I mean, it's great that, and like, I think it's credible. I mean, like, I knew this information, but having this conversation with you, like, brings to light how many awesome people are in your life.
Right.
You know, like, you think about Keith, who his mom tried to get him to leave a couple times, knowing that your wife might die. Hello. Right. And he stuck around. And I know that he's shown up in so many ways with everything that's gone on for you, with how sick you were, with recovery through surgery, and your brother and your uncle who were like, yes, sign me up. I'll give up part of my body so she can live. Like, I know there's some other people. Like, that's really incredible.
Yeah.
I know that your recovery was quite long, so we won't go into the whole details of it. But I also know that you asked the surgeon to take photos. Yeah. During the surgery. Can you tell us about that?
Because I'm in the medical field, I like seeing this kind of stuff. And I was like, and also Keith's like, this is very cool. Let's do it. Literally up through the whole process, they're like, we'd ask, like, can we have photos during surgery? And they're like, no, absolutely not. Until the day of, like the morning of, we asked one last time when the surgeon came in to talk to us. And we're like, can we please get photos of the lungs? We just want pictures of the lungs. Like, I am making a scrapbook. This is a thing. Like, I want pictures of everything. Yeah. And the morning of, finally, he was like, if I can use the pictures for teaching, then yes, you can have a copy of them. I was like, I don't care what you do with them. Hang them on your bedroom wall. Give me a copy. So we got a picture. We have pictures of me open on the OR table with the lungs still in me. Yeah. Just filleted open like a little fish. And then pictures of the lungs once they're removed and like when they're being weighed and stuff. Yeah. And my old lungs literally look like a chunk of meat that a dog has chewed on. Yeah. Like, they're unrecognizable. They do not look like lungs at all. And I know, like, most people are like, I don't know what lungs look like. Why would I know that? Yeah. But like, when you see like a cartoon picture of a lung and it's all like smooth and like this little like kind of round shape, mine literally looked like you took a steak and let a dog chew on it for a while. And that's what it looked like. And it was all like purple and discolored and like gross looking. And then we have a picture of the brand new 2 donor lobes in my chest. And they're like nice and pretty and pink and smooth. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. When you're like, well, how would I know what lungs look like? But when you see them, you're like, that's what lungs look like. Yeah. Yeah. Because I remember you showing me the photos, and it's been a long time since I've seen them. But I remember when you showed me and seeing the first picture, I was like, okay. But then when you see the new lungs and you're like, oh, and you got to go back to the old lungs to be like, yeah, those look terrible. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah. So, and can you tell us about, because they only take a lobe of each of the other people's lungs. Yeah. So can you explain lungs for those that don't know and what they take? So lungs, like a full set of lungs, have 5 lobes. So all you normal people with your regular lungs have 5 lobes. You have 3 on your right, 2 lobes on your left. Yeah. The left lower lobe is the biggest of the lobes, which is the one that they donate. Okay. To normal people who don't have any lung issues, when they donate 1 lobe, they do not notice it. Unless you are like an elite Olympic athlete or something, you don't miss 1 lobe missing. Like my brother's lung function post-surgery, once he was fully healed, is still back up at like 97%. Yeah, like, yeah. He still plays hockey. He still does all of his activities. He doesn't notice anything. Yeah. So like there's no long-term effects for him at all. And so now they took out my whole set of lungs, and I just have 2 lobes now, 1 on each side. Yeah. But those lobes are huge, and so they fill up my whole space. Because also, unlike when you're waiting for a cadaver lung, where the lungs have to be small and fit in you, because I'm only getting 1 lobe on each side, the donors have to be a lot bigger than me. So like, I'm only 5'3". The requirements for the donors in a living donor, they have to be minimum 6 inches taller than you. Okay. So that their lungs are bigger. And my brother is 6'3", and my uncle is 6'5". Oh yeah, so they're a foot taller than you. Foot taller than me. So nice big lungs. When did you find out that it was your brother and your uncle? When did they eventually tell you? I feel like basically when I was told by the transplant team that they had 2 matching donors, then basically they were given and like they knew they were chosen and this was going forward, then we could openly talk about it.
Okay. So you're going in for surgery. They've taken photos of your lungs. I know you've told the stories about when you came out of surgery that you had a lot of hallucinations because the drugs you were on, like you believed you were in the hallway for a long time.
Yeah. There was a cat in my ICU room.
Yeah. Can you tell us about
There was like floating saran wrap. I have a huge fear of spiders. And my dad, being the smart ass he is, was in the ICU one time, and because we were talking about the hallucinations, and I was like, I am hallucinating, like there is so much going on here that shouldn't be here. And he had just like jokingly said something about there being, because I said that's what I told him there was saran wrap floating in the air. And he's like, well, at least they're not spiders. And all of a sudden it turned into spiders. And there was like giant spiders like crawling on like the walls and the ceilings in the room. Yeah. And my high brain was like panicking, and I was like, make it stop. And literally all he had to do was like say, okay, it's saran wrap. And they like changed back. Yeah. But it was like, it's the worst because you think it's real. Yeah. And you're like, and like to the point where I actually thought, and because the problem is you don't know what's real and what's not, because some things, like my mom had a tattoo on her face that I could see, but I was like, well, clearly that's a hallucination because I know my mom didn't go get a face tattoo. Yeah. That's wrong. But then I legit thought there was a cat sitting on like the windowsill. And in my brain, I actually thought that was real. So like you don't know what you'll know is real and what's not real because, and I remember like, well, I half remember, and then Keith told me the real version of the story because again, my high brain only remembers it partially from what I was experiencing at the time. Yeah. But at one point, the doctors came in to like do rounds on me or whatever. And one of the team, I like from my bed, and I like called him over and I was like, come here. And he like came over to the bed, and apparently I like grabbed his tie and like wrapped it around my arm and like grabbed him and pulled him in close and was like, you need to decrease my medication. He's like, why? I was like, because I am hallucinating balls. And he's like, how do you know you're hallucinating? And I was like, well, my mom doesn't have a tattoo on her face, number one, and I can see it there. And I was like getting really like smarmy with them. And I was like, and I know there's not saran wrap just floating in the air because that doesn't make any sense. And he's like, okay, well, you let me know when the hallucinations turn from you knowing they're not real to not knowing. And I was like, say that again out loud. How much sense does that make? If I think they're real, how am I going to know it's an hallucination? Like, yeah. That doesn't make any sense. I won't know when I don't know they're not real anymore because I'll just think it's real.
And what did he say?
And he's like, good point. We'll just lower your medication. I was like, yeah, why don't we do that? Which they needed to do anyways, because the pain medication, I was not feeling enough pain because one day I was sitting in like the ICU bed, sitting upright, but I was like moving myself around in the bed with my arms, like just adjusting by like picking myself up like this and moving myself around, which having open chest surgery, you can't use those muscles. And I was just lifting myself up and moving myself around. And my physiotherapist happened to like just be walking by my room, and he looked in and saw me doing that. And he's like, no. Stop that. He's like, does that not hurt you? And I was like, nope. He's like, we need less medication. You need to feel a little bit of pain. We need to be in a little bit more pain than you are. I was like, okay, cool.
So, because I know obviously you weren't like just completely aware of it as soon as you came out of surgery. Do you know how long from when you came out of surgery waking up? Because I know there was a story in there, and I don't know where this falls, where you woke up with a trach and you didn't want that.
Yeah. So I originally came out of surgery and was like fighting because they told Keith to expect me to be like fully out of it for like 2 or 3 days before like they were going to keep me sedated enough that like I wouldn't be awake and talking and whatnot for like 2 or 3 days. day one, basically like the morning after, I started to wake up, and like I was like, they'd give me more drugs, and I would like I was like fighting it, like fighting the sedation. Yeah. So then they're like, okay, fine, let's wake her up then. Her body's clearly fighting it. Let's just let her wake up. So we did. They extubated me. I was breathing on my own fine. That next day, was like, can I have some real food? Because hospital food is not good. And somebody had gone across the road there's a place across from the hospital called Rodeo Burger, which is really good. So I was like, can I just have a burger from there? So they had gone over, everyone had gotten food. And I was like eating a cheeseburger, perfectly fine, happy, yada, yada. And then like that night or the next day, which the timeline is very blurry for me, I like crashed. And I was like all of a sudden requiring more oxygen again. They had to put me on like high flow prongs, which means like up to 15 liters of oxygen and stuff. And I was like short of breath and everything. So they're like, okay, well they're like, we can re-intubate you, or we can like try like a CPAP machine, basically, where it's forcing air into my lungs. And so we tried the CPAP, but I was like, I'm very claustrophobic. So having it on my face, and I had to have it on for like 23 hours a day, like all the time. And I was like just panicking, and like, cause I was claustrophobic and couldn't do it. So finally I was like, Kate, just re-intubate me then, like knock me out, like put me back under kind of thing. So they did that. And as soon as they got me unconscious, they basically, because going into surgery, I had told Keith, I said, the things I'm the most afraid of is chest tubes and having a trach. And going in, Keith and I had a plan. I was like, do not let them trach me. This is the thing. Soon as I was unconscious, they're like, we're going to keep her sedated for days. And then even when she's not sedated, she's going to have to be on the ventilator to give her lungs more resting time before she can come off the ventilator. So traching her is going to be a lot easier, because the first time I woke up, immediately I was trying to pull my breathing tube out. They had to restrain me, and I was like, I am the worst patient ever.
You would hate you as a patient.
I would hate me as a patient.
Yeah.
So he's like, absolutely trach her. First, he didn't even hesitate. He's like, absolutely trach her. Don't care. She doesn't mean what she says. So then
because she doesn't know the other option.
Because I was letting my fear get in the way of what's actually better for me. Yeah. So I woke up the next time after I had been out for like a couple days, and I like woke up and I immediately like felt my like neck, and I was like, and Keith was sitting there when I woke up, and he saw me immediately feeling, and he like stopped. He's like, before you say anything, not that I could talk at the time anyways, but he's like, before you get mad, these were the options. And then he went through what the doctor had told him after I was unconscious, about having to be awake for days while having the breathing tube in, and how much I had panicked before with it in, because again, I felt claustrophobic and I felt like I couldn't breathe, even though the machine is breathing for me. Yeah. None of the decisions I was making was logical at this point. Basically, I like gave him a thumbs up, like good decision making on my behalf. Yeah. Good job. Because when you have a trach, like you don't feel it. Mm-hmm. It's not, you don't have anything down your throat. Like it's below the line of where like you don't have a gag reflex. You don't feel anything when you have a trach in. So like it's perfectly fine. It's just there. Yeah. Don't know why I was afraid of it. Anyways,
it seems weird to have a hole in your throat. Right? I feel like, yeah, I hear it.
Right. Other than you can't talk while you have it on. But we have some really wild, like, handwritten notes as conversation. Oh, yeah, I have them all. That's ridiculous. So, yeah, that's how that... And then I was on the ventilator for, like, a week, 5 days, something like that, with the trach. And then they, like, weaned me off of it when I was, like, breathing happily on my own kind of thing. The trach stayed in for a bit. I don't know how long. But I still was, like, I got transferred out of the ICU with the trach still in. But just not hooked up to the ventilator. But I still had the trach in. Yeah. But it was just plugged so I could talk. Okay.
Yeah. Crazy. So how long were you in the hospital in total?
total 2 months. I was in the ICU for 3 weeks, and then on the regular like transplant unit for 5 weeks.
Okay. And what I remember of the story is Keith basically just slept between two chairs in the room for almost that whole time.
For the 3 weeks I was in the ICU, Keith slept in my ICU room the entire time with two chairs pushed up against each other because they refused to give him a cot because they wanted him to go home. So they tried to make his life not fun. And he's like, nope, I have very strict rules to not leave her unattended because I was like, I'm a nurse. I know what's going on. I need an advocate here when I cannot speak for myself and advocate for myself. I need somebody that can advocate for me while I can't. Yeah. So he was given very strict instructions to not leave me alone in the ICU. So he slept there every night on two chairs.
My goodness.
Yeah. And like when I would wake up in the middle of the night freaking out and like panicking, he would literally come over and like, because I was also on isolation. So like when the nurse had to come into my room, full PPE, glove, gown, mask, everything, which is, if you're a nurse, having ISO patients is the worst. Like it's such a bad time having a glove and gown to go just like literally go check on a patient. And it's anyone who's a nurse who will hear this knows what I'm talking about. It's just the worst. And so
I remember even thinking that, like watching them come in, like when Theo was in the hospital, watching them have to glove up and stuff to come in the room. Like it's just, like, that must be so annoying.
It's just such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So he would like basically calm me down, and we had like my MP3 player, and he would like just start my music again, and I'd be like, okay, back to sleep I go.
That's crazy. So what was recovery like after? So coming out, you were in the hospital for 2 months.
I was in the hospital for 2 months, and then you have to stay in Edmonton for 3 months post-surgery.
Okay.
So I basically left the hospital and moved into my brother's apartment with him. Okay. Like Keith and I lived there with him. Because we also had to go back to the U of A every single day, 5 days a week still. Okay. For outpatient physio and twice a week, like actual doctor's appointments with them. Yeah. And do like pulmonary function tests and all that kind of stuff. Chest x-rays. So it was a full-time job just being in Edmonton, which is exhausting. Yeah. While also recovering from major surgery. Yeah. So there was definitely days where I was like having mental breakdowns. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I just want to sleep. Yeah. Because I'm also a person who requires 8 to 10 hours of sleep to be a happy human. So I don't function well. And I'm not a nice person when I don't have enough sleep.
Same.
So this was a very trying part.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. And so then you had that recovery and you came home, obviously just getting back into normal life, getting back into eating and things like that. And then I know there was a point where you were helping people who were coming into needing transplants. Is that correct? Or something to that regard?
No.
Okay.
I had... There are people, because like I was paired up with somebody before who had a transplant to like ask questions to and stuff like that, and like here in Calgary, like about my age, and I had volunteered to do that for somebody else, but they never paired me up with somebody, and nobody, I don't know why, but I don't know.
I know why.
But I feel like it has something to do with my saltiness. But also, it possibly could have been because my experience was going to be very different than theirs because I had living donor instead of
waiting for someone.
Cadaver donor, which I mean, I did still wait on the list for 8 months, but like my actual surgical and even my like outcome, like post, like our treatment and care is all still the same.
Yeah, yeah.
So it might have had something to do with they didn't trust me to be like the positive, happy-go-lucky, you're going to do great.
What do you mean? Because now tell us what kind of pills you're on now. How many pills you have to take a day and when you take them? No.
I still take all my digestive enzymes. The only thing the transplant cured was the lung part of the CF. So I still have CF. I still have it everywhere else in my body. I still have the diabetes. Still have to take enzymes when I eat food. Still have to do all that. So I still take enzymes to eat, which is now like 5 or 6 every time I eat like a meal, like a big meal. And then if I have a snack, I'll take like 2 or 3. So if you take those out, because those are separate than my morning and evening pills that I have to take, which include like the anti-rejection medications, which I take for the rest of my life. And then I think I'm on 14 medication last time I counted.
Because I remember when I lived with you for that period of time, watching you guys refill your pill containers, and it's like 17 jars of bottles on the counter.
So I think I take 14 medications, not including my insulins and stuff, so like pills. 2 anti-rejection medications, still like my calcium supplement and my other special multivitamin. But then all the other drugs I take are to counteract side effects from the anti-rejection medication. So I have like a couple like blood pressure, heart rate pills. I have something to help me sleep, because a lot of transplant patients because of all the other medication we take, can't sleep properly and have issues with that. So like a lot of it is, most of them are to counteract side effects from the anti-rejection medication.
Okay. Yeah. Because I remember you were having this conversation about talking to people, and I just remember you saying that I don't know where this was or what happened, but somebody saying, I just can't take pills. And your response was?
Well, so we were in the workup classes pre-transplant when this happened. And because people get lung transplant for all sorts of reasons, not just having CF. And it was an older lady who was getting a transplant because she had like pulmonary fibrosis or something of the sort. And it was like one of the like support group, like, I don't remember if it was with the pharmacist. It might have been one of our like pharmacy like meetings of here's what you can expect after as far as medication go and stuff like that. And she was going through like all the medications, and you have to like religiously take them every 12 hours. So like if your time is 9 and 9, 10 and 10, like you can set it to whatever time you want, but you have to like religiously take your pills every 12 hours. Yeah. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like this is the only thing that's going to keep you from rejecting. And this lady in the class was like, well, I can't take pills. I can't even swallow a Tylenol. And I was like, well, then go home. Why are you here? Like, if you literally aren't going to trade in dying from your lungs killing you to learn how to swallow pills, then why are you here? Yeah. Like, and like even now, like there's still people who don't like know me and aren't like close, but they'll see all my pills I take like in the morning and the evening. Yeah. And it's like it's a handful. I think there's like, when I counted, there's 19 pills that I take, because I take multiples of some of them. And they're like, I don't know how you can take that many pills. And I was like, well, it's better than being dead, so you'll learn to adjust. Yeah. Like, just like they don't think it through, and it's like, it's a handful of pills. I was literally going through hours of like nebulized treatments, chest physio, coughing until I was puking multiple times a day. This little handful of pills I have to take that takes me 30 seconds to take. Yeah. Not a big deal. Yeah. Like, look at the look at the big picture here.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's the thing. And I remember you saying that, like somebody complaining, and I'm like, I can understand looking at it and being like, I'm going to have to learn how to swallow pills. Like, that's a lot. I can understand that being a thing, but not, I can't take pills. Right. That's probably part of why you've done so well, is because you've just been like, well, this is just what I do. And I remember asking Keith one time, I said, like, was it hard being in the hospital, helping you and sleeping in the chair and doing all these things? And his response was, no, that wasn't hard. Scary? Sure. Not hard. He's like, because I knew what I had to do every day. Every day, this is what I had to do. This is what had to be done. It wasn't hard. I had no choices. I just had to be there. Scary, lots of other emotions for sure. Hard is choosing what I have to do every day. Hard is showing up to make those choices that I know are better for me and I don't actually have to do them. And I thought, wow, that's a really good perspective to have. And I don't mean that to undermine people who are feeling the hard in whatever they're going through, but I think that, yeah, it is a really good perspective to have, and I feel like that's similar to yours.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
And so now, okay, so you've been through all this growing up, that was life, going through transplant, recovery, getting back into normal activity and things like that. What's life like for you now, Deanna?
I mean, I went back to work 1.5 years after transplant. I still work, which is, I don't know why retirement age isn't 40, but that's fine. I mean, people, so even because I had living donor, my lung function now is like 60%. And people are like, well, you don't even have full lung function. And I'm like, but I've never had full lung function. So to me, it seems like I have full lung function. Yeah. Like, I don't notice that I don't have full lung function. Me and my husband play on a co-ed volleyball team. We go biking. I go swimming. I can do any of the activities I want to do.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I do all of the ones I should. But, like, I can do any of the activities I want to do. Yeah. So, like, it's essentially better than it's ever been. Because even if I get short of breath because I'm out of shape,
yeah,
I'm not coughing to the point of puking. I'm not coughing up a bunch of phlegm that's trying to suffocate me. Yeah. It's 1 billion times better.
Is it ever wild to you to think back to like where you were and what you are now?
Sometimes I forget. Like because it's been 14 years now, and like I just live a normal life, which other people with the diabetes and everything else are like, you're nothing but living a normal life. You have all these other things. I'm like, but my biggest obstacle is out of my way. Yeah. Like, until you are sitting on your couch and you can't get up to walk to the bathroom without coughing to the point of puking, you don't understand how hard life is. Not being able to go pee without coughing. Like, basic life things. You can't do anything. So, like, it's just 8 billion times better.
I still remember when I had to have knee surgery because I'd been your client. You'd been my client, sorry, for like 3 weeks, maybe 4, before I screwed up my knee. And then I think it was like, I don't know, a week after that that I knew I was going to have knee surgery. And I remember I came up to you and you were sitting on a bike at the gym. And I was like, I'm fully well aware that telling you this right now is the wrong person to tell this to, but I'm going to tell you anyways. And I was like, I'm really scared of knee surgery. And you were like, yep, wrong person. I was like, yep. And I remember coming up to you on crutches thinking I was going to tell you this. And I'm like, I know she's not going to give a shit. I know she'll have no sympathy and I'm okay with it. I just have to get this off my chest. I just have to get it off my chest. Thanks so much for sharing your story. I think it's pretty cool. And I know that you're like, whatever, it's just what I did and it's just life. But I still think that the attitude that you guys have about, both you and Keith have about it, in like, it was scary and unsure.
Oh yeah, I do have one more thing. Okay. People now, or like after, will be like, "You were so brave to go through that." I'm like, I wasn't brave. What option did I have? Yeah. Like, I didn't. The other option was to choose to not have a transplant and die. Yeah. Like, I don't understand when people are like, "Oh, you're so brave." I was like, I did what I had to do to survive. Yeah. That's not brave. That's just doing it. Yeah.
I could still be scared shitless, but it needed to happen.
Right?
Yeah. I think that too. People say that, like, oh, you were so strong when you did that. No, I just had to.
You didn't see me at home crying. Yeah. That's not what was happening. Yeah.
I just had to do it. There's a lot of things that people say with those kinds of things that obviously very different context from my understanding of things. But when people say those kinds of things, it's like, that comment doesn't make any sense. And I know they're just trying to compliment you, but yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So don't tell someone they're brave when they have to go through this. Maybe beforehand, trying to prep them up, being like, you're brave, you can do this. Yeah. Sure. But afterwards, it's like, well, no, I just had to do it. Right. Yeah. Anyways.
I mean, other people might appreciate it, but yeah, I was like, that's just annoying.
Thanks so much for sharing, Deanna. I appreciate it. I'm excited to share your story. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. To help support the growth of this podcast, please feel free to leave us a review, follow us on socials, or recommend us to your friends. Your support honestly means the world to us. With love, Sammy and Melissa.